I never thought a rainy morning could be this cold. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't even the shivering wetness of my thin nightgown clinging to my skin. It was the feeling of standing between three tall men in uniform while my only daughter pointed a finger at me and said, "My mother is no longer of sound mind. I am her legal guardian." I stood there, barefoot on the wet porch steps, my gray hair plastered to my forehead. One of the officers asked me gently, as if coaxing a disoriented old woman, "Is there anyone we can call for you, Mrs. Margot?" I gave a slight nod, looking him straight in the eye. "I used to have a husband named Arthur." I paused, swallowing a lump in my throat. "Now, I'm all I have left." I didn't fight. I didn't scream or shout or struggle like they do on TV. I just looked at Celeste. She stood with her arms crossed, her black dress hugging her body, her eyes expertly lined. Her high heels were planted firmly in the middle of the porch, the very porch whose tiles I'd scrubbed clean every spring. I don't know who handed me the raincoat. Maybe one of the three officers. I don't remember how I got into the police car, either. I only remember as I turned to look at the house one last time, that the wooden sign I'd carved, "Ellery Home," since 1983, had been taken down from the fence at some point. And the old maple tree where Arthur and I used to drink tea every afternoon was now just a stump. It all started a few months ago. It was a beautiful Saturday afternoon, the kind of day you only get in Southern California, golden and leisurely, like an old memory. Celeste was hosting a party at the house. I was still living there then, temporarily, as she called it. I hadn't invited anyone, of course. It was her party. Friends from her law firm, a few of her husband Graham's golf buddies, and a flock of young women in tight dresses, their mouths full of wine and fragmented stories. I stayed in the kitchen for most of it. Like always. I took out a tray of butter cookies I had just baked, my mother Mildred's recipe. I'd been baking them for over 40 years, for any and every occasion. I arranged them neatly on a porcelain plate, placed it carefully on a silver tray, and carried it out to the porch with both hands. The sun slanted across the white wooden benches, creating shimmering slivers of light like shattered glass. As I approached, a young woman in a red dress asked, "Who made the cookies? They smell amazing." I smiled, but before I could answer, Celeste took a step forward, gesturing toward me. "My mother. Oh, she's just staying here." Her voice was as light as the breeze, but I heard every word, clearer than the laughter that followed. A round of laughter, not exactly cruel, but enough to make me want to retreat immediately. I stood there, still holding the tray of cookies. No one said anything else. Graham shot me a quick glance before turning to pour more wine for his friend. I don't know how long I stood there. My hands started to tremble, partly from the weight of the tray, and partly from something I couldn't name slowly tightening its grip on my chest. I turned and walked back inside, the cookies untouched. I set the tray on the kitchen counter, untied my apron, and poured myself a glass of water. But what the water tasted like, I can't remember. I used to be a librarian. Nearly 30 years at the town library. I've read over 10,000 books and answered thousands of silly questions from children and the elderly. I know what a story looks like when it starts peacefully, only to slowly fracture. That evening, after the party was over, I stayed behind to wash the dishes. Celeste went upstairs. Graham was in the living room watching sports. I collected each glass, dried it, and placed it on the rack. No one asked me to. But no one ever told me to stop, either. I was there. But no one saw me. Not a single soul. After that evening, being led from my home by strangers, with my own daughter signing the papers that declared me of unsound mind, I lay awake all night in a strange bed at the temporary facility. Unable to sleep, I kept replaying the image of Celeste on the porch. Confident, powerful, and a complete stranger. Then I started to remember a day long ago. A spring day in 1983, when Arthur took me to see our first house. The house wasn't much back then. Walls cracked like crow's feet, floors that creaked with every step, and a roof that leaked so badly we had to set out buckets whenever it rained. I stood there, speechless. Arthur just smiled, took my hand, and placed it on the crumbling plaster wall. "See," he said. "It's like us, not perfect, but strong enough to be fixed." I laughed. And we did fix it. With our own 2 hands. We spent our weekends painting, replacing doors, planting flowers, and installing lights. Nothing was quick. But that house became our sanctuary. It was the first thing we built with love instead of money. Arthur was diagnosed with cancer on a gray autumn day. We turned the living room into his bedroom because he could no longer manage the stairs. I placed his armchair by the window so he could look out at the garden, where we used to have peppermint tea every afternoon. I can still remember the smell of that tea, a scent of peace I can no longer find. He passed away quietly one October morning. I sat by his bed, holding his hand until it grew cold. And then, I was left alone in that house. Not entirely lonely, because I still had Arthur's letters, the pencil marks he'd made in his books, and his words that seemed to echo in the air. "Don't forget to water the mint for me." I never did. In 2016, Celeste showed up with 2 lattes and a notebook. "Mom, you shouldn't be living alone anymore. Graham and I have talked it over. You should move in with us. The house is big, and it'll be easier to look after you. And you won't be so lonely." I hesitated. That house was the last piece of Arthur and me. But Celeste was right. My back ached when I stood up, and the stairs were getting harder. And a part of me thought, maybe this is a chance to be closer to her. We had never been truly close, but I always held out hope. I packed everything into 4 cardboard boxes. Clothes, books, wedding photos, the deed to the house, and a small wooden box I had labeled by hand, "Wedding Memories." Inside were our wedding rings, the letters Arthur wrote me during our first year of marriage, and the handkerchief he'd used at our wedding. When I moved in, Celeste helped me arrange my bookshelf, and Graham carried my suitcase upstairs. She made me lavender tea and suggested we go to the salon. "Mom, the gray hair makes you look a little old. Maybe you should try a chestnut brown." I smiled and said, "But I am old." The first few months felt like a new beginning. But then, slowly, things began to change. I didn't feel like I was settling in. I felt like I was being methodically cleared out of my own space. The old wall clock I'd brought with me, a sweep hand model with a gold face that had been running since Arthur's grandfather's time, vanished after a deep clean. "I put it away," Celeste said. "It was too old, it looked cluttered." Another day, I opened a box of books and found several of my Toni Morrison first editions missing, the ones I'd kept even after the pages had yellowed. Celeste's explanation: "Mom, old books ruin the house's aesthetic. And it's not like you were going to read them again, right?" Then the curtains, the ones with the small purple flowers I'd sewn myself back in 1990, were replaced with plain, light gray ones, as sterile as a room in an IKEA catalog. "This tone fits our home's palette better," Celeste said. The floral was dated. I knew I should say something. But whenever I tried, my mouth would go dry, my voice catching in my throat. Was I being too sensitive? Or was I becoming redundant? One evening, Graham knocked gently on my door. "Mom," he said, "we're practicing sleep hygiene. Would you mind going to bed a little earlier? Around 8? We need the evenings to ourselves to recharge. Recharge. I nodded. Then I closed the door. I felt as if someone had just unplugged me from the wall. I used to have a house, a husband, a life that, while not perfect, was mine. Now I lived in a white house with grey furniture, and the sound of my own voice grew fainter every day. And the one thing I never dared to admit was that I was starting not to recognize my own daughter. I think I started getting used to being forgotten. Not completely forgotten, not like an old coat left on a chair. It was more like people saw my presence, but no longer considered it noteworthy. I woke up early every morning, before the sun. The house was always silent then, except for the soft hum of the air conditioner and the sound of my feet on the hardwood floors. I'd start by making coffee, then I'd fold the blankets, clear the dining table, and take out the kitchen trash. No one asked me to, but no one ever stopped me. I hung the laundry on the balcony, a habit I'd kept from my days with Arthur. The sun came up fast, and air-dried clothes always smelled better than the dryer. One day, just as I'd finished hanging a kitchen towel, Celeste walked out onto the patio below, held up her phone and called out, "Mom, don't hang things out here anymore. It ruins the aesthetic." I looked down at her through the sunlight, not quite understanding the word. Celeste wasn't looking at me. She was adjusting her camera angle, posing in front of the bougainvillea. I later saw the photo on her Instagram. #hashtag morninglight #mysanctuary, with no sign of me or the clothesline. The corner of the garden I used to tend had been completely transformed. The lavender and wild daisies I'd planted last year were dug up, replaced with small trays of succulents. Neat, cold, and impersonally clean. "Don't water them too much, Mom," Celeste told me. "Succulents die if they get waterlogged. Just let me handle it." But I never saw her water them once all week. One time, Graham had a friend from San Francisco stay for a few days. When I came out after finishing up in the kitchen, I found my things had been moved out of my room. My small suitcase was at the end of the hallway, next to the sofa. "It's just temporary, Mom," Celeste said. "Graham's friend needs a quiet room to work remotely. I've set out blankets and a pillow for you." I didn't ask any questions. I just took my suitcase and silently spread a sheet over the couch. The sofa was hard, and my back ached all night. The friend stayed for 2 days and left without so much as a goodbye. I wasn't sure if he even knew I lived there, or if he just thought I was some elderly housekeeper Celeste hired by the hour. One night, around 11 p.m., I went downstairs for a glass of water. I didn't turn on the lights, afraid of making noise. But as I neared the staircase, I heard Celeste's voice from the living room, quiet, but clear. She was talking to Graham. "I can't take it anymore. She exhausts me. I come home and I just feel drained." Graham didn't respond. I heard the clink of a glass as he poured a drink. Celeste continued, her voice sharper now. "I need to detox from my own mother. I come home from work and she's just silently moving around, like a ghost. Doing chores no one asked for. Just this silent presence. It's driving me crazy." I stood frozen, the glass I was about to get milk with still in my hand. The kitchen was cold, the microwave clock casting a dim green glow. Each word was like a pair of scissors, snipping away at my memories. The days I drove her to school, the time she cried in my arms after being teased by friends, the day she hugged me after getting into college, saying, "You're the first person I wanted to tell." I went back upstairs. I didn't turn on the light. I sat by the window, watching my reflection in the glass next to a cup of now cold milk. I didn't say anything to Celeste the next morning. I didn't mention the words she'd said. But from that night on, I started memorizing every sentence, Every glance, every footstep. Not to hold a grudge, but to never again forget that my daughter was perhaps no longer my daughter. I knew something was wrong that morning. I was organizing the medicine cabinet when I noticed the bottle of brain supplement pills Celeste had given me last week looked different. They weren't the blue capsules I usually bought at the store, but opaque white tablets with a slightly acrid smell. The brand name on the label was unfamiliar. I'm not a doctor, but I'm not a fool. I sat down at the dining table and looked up the name of the drug on my old phone. The first result was an article. New pharmaceutical contains ingredient known to reduce focus if used incorrectly. I read that line over and over. My heart began to beat slowly, steadily, and as cold as ice. For the past week, I'd been misplacing things, and one morning I'd put salt in my coffee instead of sugar. I thought I was just getting old and forgetful, but now, I wasn't so sure. I took the bottle, intending to ask Celeste about it directly. But as I stepped out of my room, I saw Graham standing at the top of the stairs. He looked at me, his eyes dropping to the floor, and asked, "What are you looking up, Mom?" I didn't answer. I went back into my room, put the bottle in a drawer, and locked it. That afternoon, Celeste came home with a stack of papers. She didn't ask if I was free. She just placed the documents on the table, pulled out a pen, and said in an almost rehearsed tone, "This is a co-ownership form, Mom. Graham and I are planning to renovate the kitchen and bathrooms. If you co-sign with us, we'll get a tax break and it'll be easier to get a loan. You don't have to do anything. Just sign." I looked at the papers, at the tiny, perfectly aligned print. The title read, "Quitclaim Deed." I used to be a librarian. I was familiar with the term. This wasn't about a tax break. This was a relinquishment of ownership. Before I could open my mouth, Graham emerged from the kitchen with a glass of water and stood beside Celeste. "You don't need to overthink it," he said, as if we were discussing paint colors. "It's just a signature." I didn't look at either of them. I picked up the papers and read the first few lines. The words "transfer all legal interest" seemed to be branded onto my forehead. I set the file down carefully. Then I stood up. No one said a word. That night, I sat in my room with only a small desk lamp on. I opened my notebook, the one I'd been using since Arthur died. Inside was the list of strange incidents I'd been documenting. The day Celeste threw out the old clock. The day my books disappeared from the shelf. The words Celeste had said when she thought I couldn't hear. I added a new entry. "Celeste wants me to sign over the property." No explanation. No discussion. Just a pen, paper, and a command. 3 days later, Celeste brought the papers out again. This time, she sat right next to me, sliding the file toward me as if it were a lunch bill. "Mom, just sign it. You'll still live here. Nothing will change." I didn't say anything at first. I just took the file, slid it back toward her, and placed it gently on the table. Then, I lifted my head and looked my daughter straight in the eye for the first time in weeks. "No," I said, my voice slow and clear. "I will not sign anything I don't fully understand." There was no yelling. No drama. Just a refusal. Celeste's eyes narrowed. She blinked once, and a small smirk played on her lips, as if she'd just heard a ridiculous joke. "You're no longer in a position to understand." I didn't reply, but I heard her words as if they were being carved into my heart. No longer in a position. As if I had stepped out of my role as a mother, out of my status as an adult, and was now just a shadow in the house I once called home. She collected the file, not rushing, and went upstairs. I sat there alone, next to a cold cup of tea and a silence that felt heavier than the air in the room. I knew in that moment that I was no longer a guest in my own home. I was a person being quietly evicted. And for the first time, I didn't back down, didn't nod, didn't comply. For the first time, I kept my signature to myself. I never thought I'd live to see the day someone would call me to verify my own name. The call came on a Tuesday morning while I was folding napkins. It was a weekly chore of mine, folding them neatly and putting them in the third drawer on the left, where I always kept things tidy. Everything in my life had its place, even old memories. But that morning, a call from the bank disrupted everything. The man's voice on the other end was polite, almost formal. "Hello, this is Nathan from L&Amp, B Bank. We need to verify some information regarding a recent mortgage application filed under the name Celeste Ward for the property at 1406 Montgomery." I froze. That was my address. The house Arthur and I had paid off, dollar by dollar, over 30 years. I asked slowly, carefully, as if speaking too quickly would shatter the world I was trying to hold together. "Is there some mistake? I haven't applied for any loan." He hesitated. "Well, the application bears your signature, Margot Ellery. However, if you're saying you didn't sign it, we can email you a copy for your review." I could barely breathe as I hung up the phone. I sat down at the dining table, opened my old laptop, and logged into my email. The attachment arrived within minutes. I clicked it open. There it was, clear as day, Margot E. Ellery. But the handwriting was foreign. It wasn't the way I'd signed my name for decades. It was stiff, careless, lacking the little loop on the G that Arthur used to joke was the signature of a sentimental woman. I stared at the scanned ink, my trembling finger resting on the mouse. A chill ran down my spine. I did not sign this document. I did not authorize this. I knew nothing about this. And yet someone who once called me Mom, had signed for me, acted in my name, and claimed to be handling my assets. I went to my room, opened the closet, and pulled out the bronze-colored metal box with a latch, the one I'd kept hidden since Arthur passed. The key was still tucked inside the old Bible no one ever bothered to touch. I opened the lid. Inside was everything important I had ever kept. My marriage certificate from 1968. Arthur's death certificate. A handwritten letter he wrote me on our last Valentine's Day together. "If there's ever a day you feel like no one is on your side, just remember, there was a man who loved you enough to give you this whole house." And the deed to the house, still in my name. My name alone. I laid everything out on the table, arranging the items like chess pieces. There were no more tears. Just a cold, clear-headed feeling. The kind of clarity that only people who have been hurt to their very core learn to hold on to. I picked up the phone and found the number for Raymond Salas. He was Arthur's best friend from high school. He'd been a brilliant trial lawyer in Orange County, now retired. I hadn't called Raymond since the funeral. But right now, I had no one else to call. The phone rang 2.5 times before he answered. "Hello." I took a deep breath. "I don't know where to begin, Ray, but they're saying I'm not sound enough to keep my own property." Silence on the other end of the line. Then Raymond's voice, as steady as it was the day we took Arthur to the hospital. "Margot, we'll get it back, piece by piece. Starting with your name." I sagged against the back of the chair and closed my eyes. For the first time in months, I felt something other than fear. It was a flicker of something else, small, but distinct, that felt like hope. After calling Raymond, I started writing my name at the top of a new page in my old notebook every day. Margot E. Ellery. Just that. A reminder that I was still me, even if someone was trying to erase me from the paperwork. Raymond told me to start collecting myself. It sounded strange, but I knew what he meant. It meant documenting everything that happened. In writing. With selective silence. By not letting the small dismissive things slide by as if they didn't matter. I also retrieved Arthur's old voice recorder. A small Sony, the kind people used to record lectures. I put in new batteries and pressed record. It still worked, emitting a soft whirring sound like a quiet breath. I hid it under a napkin in the center drawer of the living room console table, the one where Celeste often sat to make phone calls. I wasn't looking for drama. I was looking for the truth. The truth I couldn't speak without being called paranoid or too old to know right from wrong. For the first week, there was nothing conclusive. Fragmented conversations, the clatter of dishes, a few complaints like, "She wiped down the counter again." Or, "I'm so tired of having to manage everything." I would sit in my room, headphones pressed to my ears, rewinding and taking notes on a timeline, as if I were recalibrating my own heartbeat. But then, one night, something slipped through the polite facade. Celeste had forgotten to turn off her Bluetooth headset. I'm not sure who she was talking to, but the recorder picked up the entire conversation from her bedroom. Her voice came through, faint but audible. If she died sooner, things would be easier. I'm so tired of pretending to be the good daughter. I couldn't make out the reply clearly, whether it was Graham or someone else. But a man's voice answered, soft and without protest. "You shouldn't say that, but I get it." That was it. I sat in the darkroom, the notebook on my lap, the headphones still on. I didn't turn on the light. I didn't cry. I just stared out the window, where a beam of light from a street lamp cut through the grey curtains Celeste had chosen for me. Not once did she call me Mom. Not once did she ask, "Are you okay, Mom?" The next morning, I walked to Raymond's house. In my hand, I carried the notebook, the voice recorder, and a copy of Celeste's birth certificate, so he could see that the woman now being called a burden was the same one who carried that baby out of the hospital, her hand still shaking from a C-section. Ray opened the door, wearing his same old cardigan, his reading glasses perched on his nose. When he saw me, he just said, "Come in. I'll make coffee." I didn't need coffee. I placed the recorder on his wooden table. I pressed play. The entire conversation filled the air of his old kitchen. When it finished, we sat in silence for a few seconds. I spoke, so quietly it was like talking to myself. "I think it's time to stop waiting for her to love me." Raymond didn't look at me right away. He opened a drawer, pulled out a file, and set it on the table. "That's enough, Margot. Now it's time to get you back." I nodded. For the first time in months, I felt like I was doing something with purpose. I was no longer just a character in a story someone else was writing. That night, I started packing my things. Not in a frantic rush to leave, just gathering what was mine. The deed to the house, Arthur's letters, a few old photos, a copy of the title. I also printed out the notes from my journal, the dates and times Celeste had called me a burden, incompetent, a silent object. I put everything into a brown manila envelope and sealed it. On the outside, I wrote, "Margot, legal and amp, mental property." I placed the envelope in the drawer beneath my pillow. Then I sat on the bed, my back against the wall, and breathed slowly. I still didn't know what I was going to do next. But I knew one thing for sure. I would not let anyone else write my name with a forged signature ever again. I woke up at 3 a.m. No alarm. No one calling my name. Just a silence so profound I could hear my own heart beating as I got out of bed. I didn't turn on the lights, using only the glow from the hallway. I opened my nightstand drawer and took out the brown envelope I'd prepared. The deed, my marriage certificate, Arthur's letters, a copy of the recording, and the declaration of legal competence Raymond had helped me finalize 2 days before. I packed it all into a small suitcase, the kind with quiet wheels I used to use when visiting Arthur in the hospital. I chose 3 outfits. 1 old book. And the voice recorder. I wrapped it in a scarf and placed it in the bottom lining. Finally, I sat down at the dining table, picked up a pen, and wrote a short letter to Celeste. Not to persuade or punish, but to have the final say, my way. You used to call me your superhero, the person you wanted to become. I used to believe you. But then, somewhere along the way, I became something you were ashamed of. I'm not dying, Celeste. I'm just retreating. And this time, it's for myself. I placed the letter in a plain white envelope, unaddressed. I set it on the silver tea tray, the one Celeste never touched, even though I still made tea every afternoon. Beside it, I left my wedding ring, the one thing I hadn't taken off since Arthur slipped it on my finger in 1968. I pulled my suitcase to the door, my steps so light it was as if the floor itself might hear me leaving. I didn't look back. I didn't need to check one last time. I knew exactly what I was taking, and I knew exactly what I was leaving behind. Outside, the sky was still dark. The streetlights cast a soft, yellow glow, and a gentle breeze was blowing. I walked slowly across the lawn where the swing set Arthur had hung used to be. Now, only a rusty frame remained. I walked 3 blocks to the bus stop. The first bus, heading downtown, was at 4:10 a.m. It was empty. I took a seat at the very back and leaned my head against the cool glass. As the bus pulled away, I watched the lights of my house grow dim, then disappear completely. I didn't cry, but something inside me had come undone. Like a button that had been misaligned for years, finally unfastened. I arrived at the real estate office while the morning fog still hung in the air. The glass door had a decal, Brennan Realty, dedicated real estate since 2006. I stood on the porch for a moment before stepping inside. The reception desk was empty, but a few seconds later, a woman with her brown hair tied in a high ponytail walked out. It took me a moment to recognize Leah Brennan, the little girl who used to sit in my library after school, obsessed with and of Green Gables, waiting for me to read with her every Thursday afternoon. Leah froze for a second when she saw me. Then her eyes welled up, quickly and genuinely. I still remember you reading and of Green Gables to me, she said, her voice thick with emotion. Now I get to read contracts for you. I smiled. A small, faint smile, the kind that no longer has the energy to be loud, but a real smile nonetheless. I need to sell my house, I said. But I don't want it listed publicly. Only for serious buyers. And I don't want anyone to know where I am. Not even someone who shares my last name. Leah nodded. No more questions. No judgment. She pulled out a chair for me, opened her laptop, and got out a notepad. She was professional and efficient, but there was a tenderness in the way she handled the file. Not like a broker, but like a child who was once read to, now wanting to return the favor. We sat together for nearly 2 hours. I gave her all the documents. Leah made copies, took notes, and guided me through every necessary step. Each step was a cut with the past, but I felt no pain. I felt relief. Before I left, I turned back to look at Leah. Thank you for not asking why. She smiled. You were the first person who ever really listened to me. Now it's my turn to listen to you, in the way you need. I walked out of the office. The early morning sun slanted through a white picket fence. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was hiding. I was just stepping out. Quietly. But definitively. I used to think there were things in life I would never do. Selling my own home was hard enough. But selling it while my daughter was still living there, believing it was hers, that wasn't something most people could do with a steady hand. And yet, that morning, I sat in Leah's small glass office, a 10-page contract in front of me. My name was printed in bold at the top left. The buyer was a Mrs. Diana Hobbs, 53, from Santa Clarita, recently divorced and looking for a fresh start. Leah had presented me with 3 offers. One was from a young tech couple who spoke in a language I didn't understand. Another was from a real estate investment group that looked at the house like a spreadsheet. And then there was Diana, the only one who didn't ask about renovation potential, but instead asked, "Does the kitchen still get morning light? I like to make my coffee there." I looked at Leah and pointed to Diana's name. "I don't need someone to fix the house," I said. "I need someone who knows it's a home." Leah said nothing. She just nodded and handed me a pen. I thought my hand would shake. But it didn't. As I brought the nib to the line marked signature of owner, my chest felt as still as a lake at dawn. No wind. No doubt. My signature was even and clear, as clear as the decision I had nurtured for so long. I set the pen down. Gently but with finality. Leah stamped the documents, placed them in a hardcover file, and stood up to send the digital copy to the notary. The house, legally, was no longer mine. But it was no longer Celeste's, either. About 15 minutes later, Leah's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, her brow furrowing. "Celeste Ward," she said in a low voice. "She wants to speak to the person handling the file." I gestured for her to take the call. Leah answered and put it on speaker. Celeste's voice, sharp as a knife, filled the room. "I am her daughter. I do not approve this transaction. She is not of sound mind to be making decisions this big." Leah's expression didn't change. She took a quiet breath and replied, as calmly as if she were reading a clause from a contract, "It's unfortunate when family members don't read inheritance law carefully. Mrs. Margot Ellery is the sole legal owner, with her full legal capacity confirmed by a notary. She has executed this transaction in accordance with all legal procedures. No one has the right to veto that. Not even her own daughter." I looked out the glass door. The sky outside had cleared. The fog was gone, and the sun was peeking through. I felt no guilt. I felt clarity. When I got back to the small apartment I was temporarily renting on the west side of town, my phone started ringing. 1 call. 2. Then 3. I didn't pick up. I made myself a cup of peppermint tea, Arthur's favorite. Sitting in a wooden chair by the window, I listened to the phone's soft vibration, like the frantic heartbeat of someone in a panic. The 6th call came just as I finished washing my cup. I dried my hands and looked at the screen. Celeste. Still that name. Still the child I had taught to read, the one I used to wrap in a towel after her bath. The 7th call started less than 5 minutes later. I decided to answer. But I said nothing. On the other end, Celeste was practically screaming. "Are you insane? This is my house. How dare you sell it?" I remained silent. She continued, "You can't do this. You have no right. You have no standing." I brought the phone closer to my mouth. My voice was quiet, but every word was clean and sharp. "When did you ever ask me?" There was no reply. I heard her sharp intake of breath, And then the click of the call ending. I placed the phone on the table, screen down. Outside my window, the sky wasn't exactly sunny, but it was no longer raining. I never expected things to spread so quickly. A few days after I signed the papers, Leah called me. Her words were brief. "You're not on social media, are you?" The story leaked. People are talking. I hadn't used Facebook in years. But Leah sent me a screenshot. The headline was short: "Elderly mother sells house out from under daughter. Legally, it was hers all along." Beneath it were hundreds of shares. Some defended me, others judged. But I wasn't concerned with strangers. It was the neighbors. The people who had walked past my garden, eaten my cookies, and received my Christmas cards every year. They started talking. And this time, they weren't whispering. Celeste told me later, though I didn't ask, that an old couple from the end of the street had knocked on the door that Saturday. They didn't come in. They just stood on the porch, the wife in a fur-collared coat, the husband leaning on a cane. The wife said, "Margot once helped sponge bathe me when I had a stroke, while you were busy taking selfies. I remember you yelling at your mother just for watering the plants at the wrong time." Then they turned and walked away. Not another word. I took no pleasure in hearing that story. But deep down, I felt a sense of justice. That afternoon, Graham packed his things. Celeste told me about it. This time, her voice was quieter than usual. No longer sharp as a knife, but thin as water. He left with one suitcase and 2 duffel bags. That was it. No tears, no farewell hug. Before he walked out, he stood in the doorway, looked at Celeste, and said, "I married you because I thought you knew how to love someone else. But you only know how to love yourself." Then he was gone, leaving Celeste alone in a house that was, legally, no longer hers. That evening, I received a text from Mrs. Keene, the old woman from next door whose ceiling fan Arthur had fixed years ago. She lived with her son now but was still active in the local neighborhood Facebook group. Her message read, "Margot, I just posted an open letter. I hope you don't mind." I replied, "Not at all, Keene. Thank you for telling me." I opened my phone and clicked the link. Her letter read, "I was once a woman who was treated like an object. For a time, I lived like a shadow behind a curtain, with no one asking how I was. I know what it feels like to be heard but not listened to. Today, I see Margot Ellery standing up. Not by screaming. Not by throwing chairs. Not by crying. She simply stood up, with the law, with her memory, and with the truth. I don't know her whole story. But I know she used to make tea for sick neighbors. I know she once rescued my cat from our roof. And I know that a person like that does not deserve to be called a burden. So if she chooses to stand up, then I will stand with her." I read that last line over and over. For the first time in months, I made myself a cup of tea, and it didn't taste bitter. I stood on my small balcony and looked at my pot of mint. I plucked a leaf and rubbed it gently between my fingers. The scent was soft and clear, just like the smell in Arthur's old kitchen every morning as he stirred his coffee. The breeze was gentle. The traffic below was no longer a roar. Above me was an open sky, with no one's shadow blocking the light. I was no longer she. I was Margot. And this time, the whole world knew it. I didn't hear the first buzz of the intercom. I was pouring hot water into my teapot, the sound as steady as a breath. My small apartment was on the 7th floor, facing east, so the afternoon light was soft as it filtered through the ivory linen curtains. On the balcony, my mint plant was already sprouting new sprigs. The second buzz was longer, more insistent. Then a third, and a fourth. I knew who was downstairs. I didn't go to the door right away. I sat for another moment, my hands wrapped around my teacup. When the fifth buzz sounded, I stood up and walked slowly to the control panel by the door. The camera screen flickered to life. Celeste. She stood there, her hair a mess, her makeup streaked with tears. She was wearing a sweater too thin for the chilly afternoon and was pulling a worn-out duffel bag with a frayed strap. She looked up, her eyes finding the camera. Her face had lost its usual sharp confidence. All that was left was exhaustion and something that looked a lot like fear. "I have no one left, Mom." Her voice trembled through the speaker. "Please, just for one night. Just let me stay for one night. I don't know where else to go." I said nothing. I drew the curtain back, opening a narrow slit, and stepped onto the balcony. Under the streetlights, Celeste saw me. Her eyes latched onto me like a drowning person clinging to a final life raft. She raised a hand, as if she could close the distance between us. I looked down at her for a long moment. Not to punish her, but to see her clearly, that figure, that face that was once a part of me, the person who used to fall asleep on my lap as a child, who called me superhero for doing small things like sewing a dress for her doll or making hot chocolate without any lumps. But this was also the person who had erased my name from a loan application, excluded me from family parties, called me a burden and negative energy, and tried to convince the world I was no longer sane enough to know who I was. I looked at Celeste one last time. Calmly. Without anger. Without trembling. Never assume you can outsmart an old woman, especially not your own mother. Then I closed the curtain. Slowly, bit by bit, until the distance between us was no longer 7 floors or 30 feet of pavement, but a clear decision. I was choosing to save myself. And I was choosing to refuse a return that came without remorse. I went back to my small kitchen and poured the rest of the tea into my cup. On the balcony, the mint plant swayed in the breeze, its scent filling the air like a familiar whisper. Arthur used to tell me, the smell of mint is the smell of starting over. I stood by the window, holding the warm teacup, watching the city lights come on. The windows of buildings lit up one by one, like markers of life. I didn't need much anymore, just enough light to know I was still here, and I was still myself. I walked to the corner of the room where I kept a small camera, the one I used to record video diaries, not for posting, but for posterity. I turned it on. The screen blinked. I looked directly into the lens. "If you have ever been made to feel like a shadow," I said, my voice as soft as a breath, "if you have been pushed out of the very home you built, if you have been called by your own name without a shred of respect, remember this. No one can take your voice away from you, so long as you hold on to your memory." I paused. I looked down at my hands, then back at the screen. "I am Margot Ellery." And I stood up. I turned the camera off. The gentle wind was still blowing outside, carrying the scent of mint and a kind of quiet I had been searching for a very long time. I didn't tell this story to make anyone hate my daughter. Nor did I tell it so someone could pat me on the back and say, "You're so strong." I told it because I know there are people reading this who have also sat on a sofa in their own home and felt like a guest, who have also folded laundry, cooked meals, and babysat grandchildren. But no one asks anymore, "Mom, are you doing okay?" It took me years to understand something. No one can evict you from your own life unless you first retreat yourself. Silence isn't meekness. It's a sharp knife. If you know when to use it, it won't hurt anyone, but it will sever exactly what needs to be let go. You don't have to scream. You just have to remember your own name. And stand up. If you too have been made to feel like a burden, if you have been made to feel worthless, just because you've grown older, tell me. In the comments below. Tell me how long you've endured, And what has allowed you to hold on to your kindness? Because I believe this. We, the women who have lived long lives, deserve to be heard. At least once, fully and completely.